be live here with Pontius. He's my guest. We're going to talk about this super amazing topic about the Emperor of Mankind, what he did and why he did it. And this is a complex topic, so that is why I have Pontius here with me. So hi to you, Pontius.
Yay, the Italian accent quote has been fulfilled for this stream. The Munitorum will be pretty happy of that.
Okay, cool. So you have the Italian accent, I have the mix of a lot of accents accent. And we are here to deliver Warhammer lore with our accents, so to speak. So guys...
I prefer to define it as delivering autism, but yes.
Okay. And our sense of humor, of course. So hopefully we're going to have a very funny stream. Hi to everybody that are from my side, from Pontius' side, from all of the sides. We are all 40K fans here. So let's put on our thinking hats and now really think about, judging by everything that we know about the Emperor of Mankind, did he do everything on purpose or did he not? So Pontius, what do you think?
Generally, when it comes to the Emperor of Mankind, there is very little to theorize that the Emperor didn't have in his mind or under his control. I do find that many qualities the Emperor displayed during his time walking among humans in the Imperium of Man are pretty comparable to the qualities that many saints of the Imperium showed. A single mentality driving an empire forward in war, trying to race against the dark gods to try and stop them from doing considerable damage to humans and probably conquer the galaxy, having a singular mind for warfare to the point of creating legions, tactics, and even technologies in some cases to fight around the galaxy. I do think the Emperor suffers from something that I would like to call Games Workshop really should make up their mind, because assigning the same character to various writers, some of them which openly hate him or writing for the loyalist sides of the Imperium, and looking especially at Aaron Dembski-Bowden when he was assigned to write Master of Mankind, probably the worst display ever put to paper of the Emperor of Mankind in any book. Even when he was pretty open about, yeah, Games Workshop, I hate writing for loyalists. Why the fuck did you put me to write the Emperor of Mankind? I think the Emperor was previously written to be an all-encompassing entity that had a very clear plan in mind. Unfortunately, that was diluted by a very big slew of writers that changed his personalities. The same thing that happened with Perturabo, and I still hate how Perturabo is written, so...
Yeah, I also noticed that, I mean, there's a few ideas. I mean, the writers apparently had a few ideas of how to write the Emperor. So at one point, a lot of people had the impression that the Emperor is just extremely ruthless and his Primarchs are not his sons, they're his stews. Then other people read other things. They were under the impression that the Primarchs... the Emperor is a loving father, and like the truth should be somewhere in the middle, basically. And then they retconned the Emperor a bit, you can say, with the last 3 books of the Horus Heresy, which are The End and the Death, part 1, 2, and 3, because there you can see that the Emperor does care about the Primarchs, but he's also like seemingly he is losing the control of the whole situation, and he's just accepting the fact that he's gonna lose this battle. So it did seem from these last 3 books that he basically knows that he's probably gonna lose, but he's going to relinquish the godhood to not destroy the whole universe and then face Horus and also lose the battle because he is going to be on the golden throne. So there is that. I mean, this book was written in this kind of a way. There's also this commentary that Malkador had the whole time of the Emperor and his plan, and it's just it's a bit confusing. I wouldn't say it's very definitive still.
I think the Emperor, like generally for how it was written, it was meant to be more like a figure of a savior, an all-encompassing entity, pretty much the perfect ruler, an immortal godlike being that knows what humanity must do to survive. He says so himself, if you choose to believe in him, in the book The Last Church, when he's questioned by Uriah while the temple of Uriah of the lightning stone is burning down. And pretty much what he comments on is, I have seen the narrow path humanity must walk to survive, which is a pretty open message of the fact that the Emperor probably had some kind of foresight and foresaw the events that were going to happen to the Imperium of Man or humanity if the Imperium of Man didn't emerge. Now, for how Foresight works in 40k, I believe the Emperor didn't have full control on it. The Foresight of humans is a thing, but we also saw the gift of Foresight given to the Primarchs, like Sanguinius had the gift of Foresight, even Conrad Curse did. Neither of them, though, were really in control of it. They would be given visions of the future, something that would happen, but sometimes, in the case of Sanguinius, they will try to change the future and actually manage to do it. So it was not a future set in stone. So I believe that the Emperor, while having more control on his own abilities, still suffered from the limitation that Foresight isn't really that precise. Probably he could see the future, but could see like thousands of possibilities changing every second, ever mutating and such, and try to stay on the correct path to actually reach them. But what happened simply by the end is he tried until the end to change what would happen, like Sanguinius did. But when he saw that everything he had foreseen as the worst possible outcome, but still an outcome for survival of humanity, was what was coming to fruition, he simply went, okay, if it has to happen, it will happen. Like, at that point, if I had to sacrifice myself and suffer on a throne for the next millennia to make humanity survive, I'm going to do so.
Yeah, I have the same impression, actually, of the Emperor and his foresight. I mean, there are some stories here and there. There's something in particular that I remember that one time the Emperor tried to explain how he sees things in the future. And yes, indeed, there's several ways to get to a certain point in the future that is desired, the desired outcome, but it's not sure, and you just have to, strive to do certain things so you can get there. So that is for sure, I think. It's just that at least now it seems, at least, that the Emperor maybe saw that, something maybe is going to happen and Horus is going to betray him and all those things. But then maybe he thought that he could hold on to the godhood and solve the issue this way. But that was not the case, because as far as I remember how the book was written, it was very heavily implied that if the Emperor, I mean, when the Emperor entered the state of godhood and he was growing and growing, about to become this being that is going to destroy everything in the universe, he didn't actually realize that that was happening. So he just entered the state of total loss of his humanity and actually awareness of his power and the consequences of his power. So that is why John Grammaticus, I think, and some other guy that I always forget his name, although, help me here.
Olanios Pius.
Yes, he was like, you have to realize what you're doing, because if you don't stop, everyone are going to die, like everything and everyone, the whole universe, doesn't matter. So you better just relinquish that power. So, just use your regular self to fight your son. Whatever it is just better than what you're about to do. And the Emperor actually listened, and that's why he powered down. But yeah, it just makes me think that whatever he foresaw, it deleted itself when he entered this state, and he was more sure of himself, but in a way that made him blind to the actual situation.
I think that the Emperor of Mankind generally would have not ascended to godhood generally, because for how it works with the warp and the chaos gods, for how they are conceived and the realm they live in, at the same time, they exist, have never existed, and have come into existence at a specific point in time. I think that the simple fact that a chaos god, even comparable to the Dark King, never even was mentioned anywhere in all the Great Crusade or Heresy books and such, should have been a hint that simply did not come into existence at all. Because if it had come into existence at some point in the history of the Imperium, it would have always existed. It would have always been present in the warp, because the warp is not restricted to laws of time and space. So I think it was always the case that the Emperor will not ascend to some kind of fifth chaos god level of godhood. But generally, I find the prophecy of the Dark King to be some kind weak when it comes into contact with the message the Emperor wants to give, because the Emperor cannot, by definition, become a chaos god. There is a reason if the Emperor is always defined as the anathema by the followers of the dark powers and by the chaos gods themselves that don't even dare speak his name. For the simple fact that the Emperor is everything that is the opposite of chaos. The Emperor is ultimate and absolute order. It is stagnation. It is ultimate control over everything through the sheer power and force he emitted. The simple fact that I think the writers tried to make the complete symbol of order into a chaos god shows a deep misunderstanding of what the Emperor really stands for. And generally, for the research that I'm actually doing right now for the next video, I actually found something very interesting in a book that is not actually mentioned that much in the lore of 40k, which is the second book of the Macarian Crusade, The Feast of Demetrius, where the protagonist actually sees Slaanesh being born. And the general things that happened in the dream he was having inside the webway, because he was inside the webway at that point, was that the birth of Slaanesh was a very slow and very painful process. It was not something that happened overnight. Slaanesh was already venerated as a god by the elders before she was even born. She was tricking them into venerating her. In fact, by the end of the dream, he pretty much had seen the normal peaceful elders go into dark elder mode before she was born. But she existed even before being born in the timeline. So if the Dark King always was ever like a concept, it should have existed long before the Emperor started ascending to it. So...
Oh boy. That was pretty interesting about Slaanesh. Jesus. Yeah, the lore is just so sprinkled around all the books that really you can miss a lot if you just missed a few books. Damn it. Okay.
Yeah, and there is a very interesting, pretty much, description, because what the main character, which is Leo Lemuel, I always forget his fucking second name. I only know him as Leo. But generally, what was happening is they were going through a corrupted part of the webway, which was abandoned, and there a lot of shit happened. I'm not going to spoil it, but there is a lot. Because I will talk about it actually in the next video. But what happened was they had to sleep inside that portion of the webway because they were marching from like more than a day to try and reach an elder that had escaped into the portal that had an artifact that they needed. And this normal human, which was one of the bodyguards of Lord Solar Macarius, just went to sleep and woke up inside the webway as an elder, pretty much. He was dreaming through the eyes of somebody else that had died into the webway in the past. And he pretty much saw the downfall of the elders. He saw them like going through the stages of the downfall. There were priests like going around talking about this new god of pleasure, of excess, of self-gratification. And he saw pretty much the normal, like, I will call them exodite elders, because at that point, like, the elders were pretty peaceful, at least at least in that community, turn into the equivalent of dark elders in a matter of centuries. Like, he actually saw the entire fall, and he saw Slaanesh being born and what she actually did to the souls. That it is not even described as Slaanesh eating them in the real sense of the word. She was just like breathing the souls of the elders here that she was born. And some of them were actually letting themselves be taken, because like other than the cries of terror and sufferance, there were actually parts where he explained, yeah, those cries then turned into cries of pure pleasure, and the elders that were escaping stopped and offered themselves to Slaanesh for that. Like
Jesus.
Yeah, there is like even with the old lore of how it works, even with the warp, I think even the entire concept that the Emperor could have become a chaos god is actually a very stupid addition to the lore, because removing that the Emperor is part physical, like he exists in the mortal realm, it is not something completely spiritual as Slanesh or the rest are. The Emperor is the ultimate symbol of order of the Imperium of Men. Him becoming a chaos god will mean he's the most powerful chaos god, because he's the chaos god of order, which is pretty much an oxymoron. It doesn't make sense. Yeah, I'm the chaos god of order. What the fuck?
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's so awesome, actually, when you think about it. And on the same token, people think that the Emperor's saints are chaos entities just because they're around in the realm of chaos. They're around there, but they're not from that nature. I mean, their whole existence comes from the Emperor. It doesn't come from the warp. You know, they can traverse
Not
it, but
actually exact as a concept. Like, they are not chaos entities, but at the same time, they are still warp entities. So we can see this in the books that describe the fall of Cadia.
yeah, I mean that
Because when
they are. I mean they are there, but their power, what they are, just comes from the Emperor. That's what I mean. So they are not like demons in the same way that demons are that are in the war because they come from
I
chaos.
actually describe them as minor demons of the Emperor exactly for what happened during the fall of Cadia, because yeah, they were being summoned on the planet to fight Saint Celestine and even the Legion of the Damned. But the problem is when the pylons actually activated, all minor demons on the planet suddenly disappeared because like connection to the warp was completely cut off, and that included even the Legion of the Damned. And even then, Saint Celestine, which is considered to be pretty much the equivalent of the Emperor of Mankind, of a demon prince, lost a good chunk of her powers when her connection to the warp was cut off, as the same as Abaddon, pretty much. So I will say they are not chaos entities, but they are still warp entities, even if summoned by the Emperor of Mankind.
Yeah, because they do draw power from the warp the same as the Emperor draws power from the warp. But it's just different.
But it is the same as the demons. That is the point. But yeah, they are warp entities in their sense. So pretty much this suggests that there is a part of the warp that is actually under control of the Emperor of Mankind by this point.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of a different topic to see how the Emperor can rule a part of the warp and draw power from it, but in the same time he's the anathema of chaos. So there's a difference between chaos and their entities and the Emperor and his entities, and both could be in the same realm, so to speak, but that doesn't mean that they're from the same nature. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but like I think there is a big misconception generally when it comes to 40k lore about what the warp is. How the Pio? I'm not Pio. Pio is in chat. Don't salute Pio. Pio is not important. No, jokes aside, like generally there is a big misconception when it comes to the warp generally, because the warp itself is not a malevolent realm. It was never supposed to be that. The problem is that it is a realm created by emotions and souls. It is why it is actually defined as the Sea of Souls generally. But the simple fact that there exist a lot more negative emotions and actions in the universe, starting from the war in heaven and such, to the recent times of the Imperium of Men, like pretty much turned what was a neutral realm into a pretty much malevolent realm. But it is not only that. I think that the Emperor, when he actually uses his powers, summons the Legions of the Damned or Saint Celestine and such, is channeling through himself the good energies of the warp, and it is one of the few reasons, I think, as to why the weapon the Emperor wields, which is the Sword of the Emperor, because it doesn't need any other fucking moniker, but the flames on the Sword of the Emperor are not physical, they are psyker. They're psyker powers that have been imbued into the blade. The Emperor was such a powerful psyker that even after 10,000 years from him being entombed in the Golden Throne, the sword is still imbued with his own power. And it is the reason it is the only weapon that can kill a demon permanently. Because I think the psychic powers the Emperor was channeling were never coming from the Chaos Gods. They were coming from the good emotions that are so scarce and rare to find inside the warp.
Yeah, I actually absolutely agree with that. I mean, my theory and based on what I know is the same. It's absolutely the same. But I just was just wanted to mention how I watched a lot of people commenting before because they literally cannot distinguish between the emperor's powers, the emperor's saints, and the demons. They think that they're absolutely one and the same just because they're all in the warp. But yes, of course, in the beginning, the warp was not a place that is associated with evil energies. That is just how it became with time, but that doesn't mean that it's completely and utterly, you know, I mean, what is the word for that? Uh, that is everything is bad now. Yeah, I totally forgot the word, but yeah, you know what I mean. Doesn't mean that it's totally
Um,
bad, but
yeah,
I just want to thank, just to say thank you to the super chat because that's amazing. So, son of Hastur, $10. Howdy, Pio. So yeah, Pio's in the chat, like you said. I always think of the chaos gods were always there to be propaganda. Isn't there precedent for the warp once being totally calm before the chaos gods? Not to sidetrack, well, yes, what I mean, basically what we said. So yeah, continue.
but
Oh God, sorry,
the
my mic was blocked this whole time, so nobody heard what
oh
I
damn.
said. Damn it. Damn it. Sorry guys. It happens. It's live. Okay, so I just read the super chat and I just wanted to thank Son of Hastur for this comment. So they say, I always think of chaos gods were always there to be propaganda. Isn't there a precedent for the warp once being totally calm before the chaos gods? Not to sidetrack, but that is exactly what we were trying to talk about. Oh, actually, my mic was not muted. Damn it. Okay, so I just repeated myself for no reason. Great
Now,
stuff. Okay.
to answer the question of Son of Astor, the problem when it comes to the concept of the Chaos Gods being always there is not a matter of lore or generally for how it is explained. The problem is with the warp itself. The warp as a dimension was and is a dimension that doesn't obey any kind of reality defining rules, meaning that you can enter on one side, exiting it to the other. Then when you come out, it could have been a couple of minutes have passed, a couple of centuries, a couple of millennia, or you came out even before you went in, which has happened a couple of times. And the problem with this is if the warp itself is not bound to laws of space and time, it means that it is not a line that you can cross to come in, come out. It doesn't obey a straight line for how it works. It is more like imagine a galaxy. Depending on where you enter, when, how much you stay in, how much distance you cover, you might find yourself even in a totally different era of the real world. This means that whatever is inside is there, never, always, and only from a certain point. It is the reason that a war boss, of which I don't remember the name right now because I actually never read the novel directly, was able to, he started a war, was able to enter the warp. When he came out, he found out that he came out before he had ever even gotten into the warp, found his other self, killed him, and took a spare of his own gun because he wanted it in case he lost it. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a crazy place, all right? Okay, but back to the topic at hand. I mean, do you think that the Emperor is written this way? I mean, that he's inconsistent because of all of the writers, the years that have gone by, basically? I mean, that is the answer. I mean, what else could it be? But by this point, I think they try to like push him in the direction that he feels more than he doesn't because he does have this star child entity that he detached from himself and sent away for some time in the future where he's supposed to be alive again, presumably, and that Star Child should be connected to him. And what is the Star Child? Is basically explain that the Star Child is all of his good qualities, his empathy, sympathy, love, whatever it is. So he wouldn't hold back when he faced Horus. So that means that the Emperor does have a lot of good qualities, and his whole power set, like you said, is based on drawing power from the war, but from the good side, from the good energies, and not the evil energies. So yeah, what do you think about the Star Child angle?
I think generally when you talk about writers writing the Emperor, there is a concept that people fail to realize when it comes to overpowered characters, or in the case of the Emperor, very intelligent and very gifted characters, which is a writer cannot write a character smarter than he himself is, because he's the writer, so he's the one creating it. The character will always match the level of intelligence and generally approach the writer itself has. So it is why I actually complain about the different writers that have written the Emperor over the years, because if it was a singular vision, then it might have made sense what the Emperor went through, but it seems that every time a writer changes, the Emperor has a completely different fucking personality, and it is pretty annoying. But generally, I find that the Emperor was not a malignant person. I only find that if you check the history of the Emperor of Mankind, you find out that the Emperor might have actually grown numb to many things that humans take for granted. One of them is emotions. Because when you consider that the Emperor was born 7,000 years before year zero, so by the time of the Great Crusade, he was almost 40,000 years old, has seen countless people he had loved live and die, countless people he cared about live and die, endless wars happen, the ignorance of men bring humanity almost to total annihilation, has seen the Xenos threat that the Imperium of Men was facing, has pretty much seen everything that could have been seen time and time again to the point of complete numbness. You can understand why he will grow so ruthless if he still cared about humanity as he did. Because at that point, he had understood that, one, humanity needed a singular ruler. It is the main reason he actually came out in the first place, because he was around during the Dark Age of Technology, but he didn't reveal himself until humanity was on the brink of complete extinction. And yeah, at that point it was like, okay, if I don't intervene, these guys will die all together, so let's intervene a bit. And generally, I think the Emperor is not evil or detached like people want to make him appear. If anything, I think the Emperor suffers from the numbness I explained, and because like the most malignant emotion that you can feel when you're a tyrant like the Emperor is not evil by itself, is not hatred, because hatred at least has a reason to exist. Like you hate something, so you go against it. The Emperor felt indifference. That is the main problem. It is why he treated everyone with complete indifference, like he was the only power of the galaxy to actually know what must have been done, because he was treating his singular vision as something to always chase. Why he was completely detached with some of his sons. Like, even if he didn't know that they would fall to chaos, in the end, the Emperor know that he was like him and Perpetuals were the only real immortals out there. And when you actually, like, if you take the theory I made for the Rangdang Xenocides as real, it might actually mean that after seeing what happened to the Primarchs in the Rangdang Xenocides, he just detached himself from them to not suffer the same way he did when the two missing Primarchs either died or were enslaved. And generally, I think the Emperor was well-meaning in what he was doing. He knew what humanity must have done to survive, and he actually sacrificed himself for that triumph, because he knew he would end up on the Golden Throne. Many people will suffer and die, but he knew that it was either that or Horus winning. And if Horus won, chaos would have destroyed humanity and probably all life in the Milky Way galaxy. But generally, I think the Emperor just suffered from big indifference to many events, because he knew that if he pushed himself to care about certain things, that would only hurt him in the long run. And being that he was the only real immortal, removing Malkador, but Malkador died, and Erda doesn't exist, I think that was more for his for his self-protection than anything. And I think generally the Emperor did what he did because he was following his vision in which he could see that humanity will survive, and damned all the rest in the end. If the Space Marines must suffer, they will suffer. If the Custodians must suffer, they will suffer. If trillions must die so that humanity survives, and our sons and daughters, and great sons and great daughters might rule around the galaxy without fear or anything, it will be so. But if he didn't appear, humanity would have gone extinct. If he lost against Horus, Horus would have exterminated humanity. So...
Yeah, but he did disattached these parts of himself that would prevent him to fight Horus full speed ahead. so basically he wasn't that numb, because if he was, he wouldn't do that to himself, you know? That's how it seems.
Well, yes, but I do think that the Emperor's numbness was all of his own making. Like, I don't say that he was completely numb, didn't care about anything or anyone, and just wanted what he said done. I think he was just pushing himself to not care for a big chunk of the story of the Imperium of Men and such, because he knew that if he cared too much, the people he cared about in the end will get hurt or die, which is the main thing that the Emperor has seen from his general lore, because, like, even generally, which is a pretty unknown part of the Emperor's lore, but it is actually in the codexes. The first thing that the Emperor has seen from when he was born was his uncle kill his father. After that, he started getting his psychic powers and actually caused a cardiac arrest to his own uncle. There is even a joke on TTS about this, when the Emperor is explaining his origins, and he just goes, I never liked Uncle Ragnar anyway, because he actually killed his own uncle. But, like, generally, it is more the concept of the Emperor was pushing himself to not care, and understood by the end of it that it was exactly the fact he was pushing himself to not caring that was dooming everything he had around. And he actually cared about what was happening, but was pushing himself to not act on it, just because he knew that it would be fruitless, that being attached to something might lead you on the road to damnation. Like, he was pretty much suppressing his human side. When you are a galactic level conqueror, you have to suppress your emotions, because you cannot... if you are a good person, be capable of enough violence to conquer an entire galaxy, towards your fellow humans, towards other things and such. I think he actually saw the Primarchs as tools in some way, because even Malkador defines that the Primarchs were actually only conqueror tools and nothing more. But it is the same as saying you buy an hammer, use it for 20 years, then it breaks and you buy another one. I don't think there is a single person in the world that can be around something for that long and use it for that long without growing attached to it. Yes, you might not cry when it breaks or dies, but you certainly will not feel good buying another one.
Yeah. Okay, but then I do see a contradiction a bit. Again, with this moment where the Emperor goes to Horus to fight him, and he's like seeing through him and talking to the Chaos Gods and not to Horus directly, and Horus takes a bit of a time to realize that. But that's not the point. The point is that the Emperor talked to the Chaos Gods, directly asking them, why did you kill my son? I mean, he seemed so caring in this moment, but in the same time, we just find out that he relinquished his possibilities of care. But he's still, like, going there in the room, and he's like, hey, why did you kill my son, you stupid Chaos Gods? I mean, he didn't say that, but obviously it was very, like, why? You know, like this. I mean, if you don't care, why is your first question, hey, why did you do this? You know? Here is this shell of a son. It's not Horus anymore. It's you, and you took his body. I mean, basically what he meant to say.
Yeah, I just think that in that case, he was probably, like, trying more to bring out the control that the Chaos Gods had over Horus, to try and let Horus see light. Like, it is generally how the lore is written, even before the End of the Death made things a lot more complicated than they had to be. But generally, the general lore was that the Emperor was trying to snap Horus out of the control of Chaos, even in the original lore. Not to actually weaken him, but actually like to try and save him, if he could. Because as I said, he was pushing himself to not care for many things, but I think in the end he actually did care for the Primarchs and his own sons. But arrived at that point, he was pretty much like a creator and a father, we could say, on the brink of having to kill his own creation and son because of the interference of somebody else. I think he wanted, like it is even in the old lore, that when Horus was down and all control of the Chaos God, I don't remember this from the end of the Death Part 3, but in the original lore, there was a part where Horus was like down, the chaos control of the chaos gods over him went away, and he was like weeping, asking to be forgiven, apologizing for what he had done and such. And the Emperor actually wanted to forgive him, but he knew that by the time for how wounded he was, he could not be there to stop him a second time. So he just decided to push away his own human side, the Star Child, and use pretty much his newfound real numbness, because at that point he had pushed away everything that made him human, to use a bolt of complete psychic energy to annihilate the soul of Horus, so that he could not be reincarnated in any way.
Yeah, that was the old lore basically. And then they decided to make the new lore with the Anathema and all those things. I'm not sure which one I like more. I mean, I was invested in how Dan Abnett wrote all of that, but I kind of feel that something is taken away from me, you know?
Generally, I still prefer the old lore, because it made more sense with an emperor that wasn't completely numb, but at the same time wasn't completely human either, because you wouldn't be, after 40,000 years spent roaming the earth with powers so extreme that you are pretty much a walking apocalypse. And I'm not even joking, like, the Emperor was a walking apocalypse when he was at full power. Like, even removing the fact that he turned an entire fucking war boss at Ullanor into a fucking light bulb while he was powering thousands of light years away the Golden Throne on Earth at the same time. The Emperor had the power to teleport, stop time while he still moved, control the minds of billions of people at one single time. Like, it is even the reason the Word Bearers actually kneeled in front of him on the burning of Monarchy. He was controlling them mentally. And I think the original lore made more sense with a numbed down being that is capable of tremendous power and tremendous violence, but at the same time still cared about the creations he had made, by sheer fact that they were with him for centuries, like the immortals. And it is why I think the new lore makes actually less sense to try and humanize the Emperor, because in the old lore he was a human that had lived through thousands of lifetimes, and at the same time still tried to change the same nature of humanity that was bringing humanity to extinction. In the new one, he was an asshole until he wasn't. So
Yeah, and actually I do feel that the Emperor was very nerfed at the end, because all of the powers that you mentioned, and there are actually a lot more powers that the Emperor has, none of these actually used in the last battle. He was just there. They started fighting regularly, and just the Emperor blasted Horus a few times with some energies and magic that Malkador somehow conjured, something like that, as I remember. And that is it. I mean, he used two powers from all of those that he actually has. I mean, he didn't try to mind control anyone or anything. He didn't try any other tricks, really. I mean, probably it was because they wanted to keep the battle more tight or whatever, but that's always a problem with very powerful characters. Not only in Warhammer 40K, but in other universes. They always try to think about some kind of way to make them less powerful, so they can have some kind of emotional moment, instead of trying to include their existing power set and still, strive towards the same effect and quality of the storytelling. But they always have to take that part out so they can just do the emotional stuff. But I kind of feel that that's a bit lazy. I mean, if you want to really write about a character that's powerful, just write about the character and how powerful he is. Like, this is the most important moment of the Emperor's whole life, this battle, and he is on less than 50% of what he can do, if not even less than that. And hi to minimal effort in the chat, fellow content creator. And guys, I'm gonna check your comments like after the stream, because otherwise we wouldn't be able to get our thoughts straight. But I see your comments, but I have to also concentrate on what Pontius is saying. So I'm trying to not clone myself while I'm trying to clone myself. It's all good. So yeah, Pontius.
I think there is actually a justification given for what happened with the Emperor of Mankind. There is also to consider that by the time he had fought against Horus, he had been trying to keep the human webway closed, the war in the webway, inside the webway for 9 years. The Golden Throne was pretty much going crazy the full time because the amount of psychic energies required to keep the throne at bay, because it was actually the throne that was powering the gate into the human webway, was astronomical. Like even before, if the Emperor had to sacrifice 5 or 10% of his power constantly to keep the Golden Throne active and the Light in the Warp active, it was like it is a big undertaking all the same for the level of powers of the Emperor. But by the time the war in the webway started, the webway was breached and such, the Emperor had to use probably 99% of his powers to try and keep the Golden Throne at bay. In fact, he could not even rise himself from the Golden Throne. In the past, he could control it even while not on it. When the war in the webway started, he had to sit on it for like almost 10 years straight. And I think generally that drained him of much of his psychic powers, to the point that even to enter the webway to try and give some respite to the warriors in it, as it is explained in Master of Mankind, and then the sun rose in a sunless realm. Like the Emperor entering the webway was so powerful that the sun was entering into a realm of pure darkness. There were like tens of thousands of psykers sacrificed to the Golden Throne at that point just to make that happen, because the Emperor could not leave the Golden Throne. And I think it is what happened even after Malkador sat on it, because Malkador was a very powerful psyker, but nowhere near the levels of the Emperor, which is why he got incinerated at some point. Generally, what I think is Malkador was doing some of the heavy lifting, but the rest of the power of the psychic powers of the Emperor was still busy to try and keep the Golden Throne at bay from a distance for how much he could. I think for 2 reasons. One, to make sure that like Earth didn't become a new Eye of Terror, which would have happened if the Golden Throne lost complete control. And secondly, the fact that he wanted to try and save probably the life of Malkador if he could, but in the end he couldn't, so...
That's interesting. I actually didn't know or didn't read it, or I'm not sure. I never actually remember anything on the sword that the Emperor was trying to still keep the Golden Throne in control while Malkador was sitting there and Vulcan was trying to help him.
It is not written anywhere, it is just my theory, but it will make sense, because in the end Malkador was a powerful psyker, but if the Emperor couldn't keep the Golden Throne in check without being on it, it means that nobody even on it could do it. And I like to think that the reason the Emperor was so powered down during the fight was that he was actually still trying to control the Golden Throne even from a distance to try and help Malkador. Because as it is explained, Malkador was truly the only friend the Emperor cared about. And yeah, I can see that happening.
Okay, then we're going to leave that in the theory realm, because sometimes there's something that I like to call fans making excuse for a certain lore or how the company didn't write it, and we have to come out with some excuse why they didn't or whatever. So that is...
I mean, at least it is an excuse that makes sense. It is a shame they didn't use it, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, we can be more thoughtful than whoever's writing the lore, just because we kind of see things from the outside, and when you actually write a book or whatever, you're much more involved, and your brain just cannot see things from the outside. That is things that happen to anyone, actually. They try to create anything. Same with making videos sometimes. You don't realize some stuff that you're doing wrong, and then people are actually noticing that. But anyway, I mean, we do know that there are some things that will not be able to be completely plot holeless plot holeless without plot holes. Yeah, I'm gonna invent new words now. I just want to read a comment. Don't worry, I don't expect you to keep up with with Daniel with the chat. You're not Gilliman. No, but I'm the Empress, so I am trying.
Magnus will probably forget how to sit down. Why am I imagining a Family Guy skit with Magnus in front of the golden throne? It was at that time I forgot how to sit down, just staring at the golden throne and then throwing himself on it, Family Guy style.
Yeah, there's a lot could be done when it comes to skits for Warhammer 40K. That's why TTS was so successful. And then I wanted to really make my own, but it didn't work. But someday I can make a separate channel for that, for my Emperor Empress skit that I developed.
Yeah, and actually Pio made a comment, but he stole the lore, he made it from me. So give credit, oh my god, you basement dwelling ass, even if you're technically a prisoner, so it's not your fault. But fortunately, after Horus, Abaddon was there to save the Imperium twice. It is very true, actually.
Oh,
yeah,
really?
I don't know if you guys know, but Abaddon, the spoiler actually. I don't know about twice, because I don't remember the second time, but he actually saved the Imperium at least once, because he actually killed the clone of Horus that Fabius Bile managed to make, so... Yeah, like just to give full context to like people who don't know about it. Generally, when you read the book where Sigismund dies, there is the comment that Abaddon makes about the Talon of Horus, which is the weapon he used in that battle together with Drachnien, that this claw has killed 2 Primarchs. But you're like, during the Horus Heresy, you only kill Sanguinius with that. Like, what the fuck? The second one was actually a perfect clone of Horus that was made by Fabius Bile by the time that the Black Legion was starting to fracture inside the warp after the Age of Scouring was over. The perfect clone of Horus was being used by Bile as a perfect bodyguard, and generally wanted to use him pretty much as the leverage to take control of what was left of the Black Legion. Because Bile, if anything, is a genetist, a fetishist, and an asshole. But what happened was, because Abaddon didn't want Fabius Bile to take control with a false Horus, he actually staged what was pretty much a coup and a coup, sorry. And generally, what happened was there was a big battle between members of the Black Legion, Emperor's Children, the forces of Fabius Bile, and then a duel between Abaddon and the clone of Horus. Abaddon was being battered into submission like every fucking time this guy appears. Like, how the fuck is he the War Master of Chaos? What happened was, by the end of it, Horus regained his memories for a second. He remembered who Abaddon was, hesitated, and by that time Abaddon had already stabbed him with the claws of the Talons of Horus and killed him. The point is that if Horus, the clone of Horus, had still lived, it would have been corrupted by Chaos again, controlled by the Chaos Gods again, and destroyed the Imperium of Men. So yes, Abaddon actually saved the Imperium of Men. The War Master of Chaos, ladies and gentlemen. Doing a better job than the Emperor from the Age of the Horus Heresy.
Yeah, but Abaddon did it for his own reasons, so he can be on top, you know. So, you know.
I cannot lose if I play both sides. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, the reason is very important. So here in this book that actually now showed up on screen from your previous video, you think that Malcador was lying in those moments really when he talked to this woman on the bed? I mean, for half of this, that the Primarchs were twos and all those things.
Yeah, like generally, I think that by this time the Emperor is completely fractured mentally. Oh, sorry, I just got an important email I needed to check. The point is that I don't think the Emperor ever saw them only as tools. But being that generally the mind of the Emperor is fractured by this point, it is not even a matter of generally how the Emperor worked, because I think he has lived so many lifetimes that you arrive to a point where you start like considering every option of everything you have around. As I said, there is generally this scenario where the Emperor was really trying to shield himself from the sufferance that it will cause to him about losing his own sons and such. I think by this point the Emperor is suffering complete madness on the Golden Throne, because the only reason the Emperor is believed the Emperor cannot actually regenerate his wounds is that his mind and the full of his psychic powers are being used by the Golden Throne to try and keep the Webway of Humanity closed. I think that after the level of torture he has endured, the Emperor has just gone crazy, and the thoughts that he actually kept in his head have now become extremely confused in every way possible. Like, I do not think there is a true answer, as if the Emperor truly cared about his own sons, or if he saw them only as tools. I think both are true at the same time and false at the same time. Because there is to understand that in the end, the Emperor is a very grey figure that so many things in ways others couldn't. So I think that he truly cared to an extent, but at the same time knew that if he cared too much, it will cause problems. So I think that at the same time he tried to consider them tools, but could not do anything but grow attached to them in the long run.
Yeah, so that is interesting because it seems that he's completely conscious. He knows what is happening, because when Gilliman was almost completely destroyed by Mortarion with that God Blight virus, he intervened, he recovered Gilliman completely. Then Gilliman, of course, was exposed to all of that the Emperor showed him, and it was pretty crazy, it was interesting. But then it is, I mean, the Emperor is there enough that he knows what's important to do in a particular moment. So that maybe also is like a bit of a contradiction, and it's not at the same time. I mean, it's very hard to grasp how the Emperor really is. Maybe the shamans in his head, some of them are crazy, some of them are not. If that is to be accepted as his origins, because some people do mention that in the chat from time to time about the shamans and how many people he does have in his head. But yeah, he does know what is happening, and he is trying to do something to, I don't know what, I mean, come back. And the other thing that I also had as question is exactly why doesn't he recover from the golden, I mean, when he's in the Golden Throne, why does he not like heal himself? Because he's a perpetual. Basically, it's probably because something that the Golden Throne is doing to him to keep him in the same state all the time. Maybe that is how it is.
Generally, the problem is, as I explained with the latest video of the Bad War, chaos inflicted wounds are very fucking hard to heal to begin with, because they cause a level of damage that is not only on your body but also on your soul. And while the Emperor has a very powerful soul, I don't think it is untouched by what happened with Horus. But generally, I think it is probably the fault of the Golden Throne if he cannot regenerate, because, like, he's a perpetual. If he dies, he could at least be able to come back to life. The problem is he cannot actually afford that, because the Golden Throne is keeping him on a loop of not being able to regenerate, because his entire power and consciousness is going into keeping the demons of the Webway of Humanity at bay, because people actually misunderstand what the Webway of Humanity is actually. They imagine, like, this corridor that can just be kept closed. The Webway is literally a realm like the Warp. It is a pocket dimension. The point is that the Warp breached it, and so in there you literally have endless fucking armies of demons, greater demons, all at the same time, pretty much banging on a door trying to get it open. The moment the Emperor dies, he cannot stay in the Golden Throne, which means goodbye to the light of the Emperor. So that would pretty much cripple the Imperium generally, because you cannot travel in the Warp, you cannot send armies around, you cannot send supplies around, you cannot send help around. This means that the enemies of humanity will destroy the Imperium by the time the Emperor is dead. Other than that, the Webway of Humanity is breached, the demons start invading Earth and the Palace. For the contingencies of the Emperor that he actually had installed, which I think it was called the Talisman of the Seven Hammers, the Golden Throne would explode and destroy Earth, and I think even if it didn't, Earth will become a new Eye of Terror, because there is literally a breach pretty much in the Imperial Palace directly to the realm of chaos. And all of this the moment he dies. So He cannot regenerate. All of his power must go to keep the webway closed and the beacon inside the warp lit, because the Imperium cannot survive without it. And if he dies, even if he comes back to nothing, because the Imperium would have fallen and humanity would have probably gone extinct. So.
Oh, very bad. Okay. Time to address the second super chat. Thank you to Nasco. He's one of my guys. Thank you, Nasco. So he says, Danny, give us your thoughts about the change of the right bone lore and the Eye of Terror's origins.
The Wraithbone change, I actually haven't looked into it, but if it is as true as they say, it is a very fucking dumb change, because it actually destroys completely the concept of a post-scarcity civilization bored to death by their own existence. Because generally the only reason the Eldars became what they became and started being in search of pleasure and ever-endless violence to satisfy their own need for something different in their lives was literally because they were a post-scarcity society. They didn't die, they didn't age, they didn't have to strive for resources, they didn't need to find food, they didn't need to conquer. They literally lived in a pocket dimension most of the time. So what they were doing is literally being violent for the sake of being violent, because they were bored. If you put into the mix the fact that they needed to mine to build the stuff that they build, literally singing it into existence, they are not a post-scarcity civilization anymore. They are not generally a civilization that will be bored to death of life. The fact that Slaaneeshi exists doesn't make any fucking sense. So, yeah, I don't know if the change is really as much as they say, because I've seen conflicting sources about it, but let's be real, I don't care. I don't give a fuck enough about the Eldars to actually look into it. Like, I think 90% of the hobby. But generally, the second change on the Eye of Terror is actually a very stupid one that I actually commented in my video about the Imperium are the good guys, because changing the Eye of Terror from the place where Slaanesh was born to just being a wound left by the War in Heaven is a very stupid change that actually contradicts many parts of the lore. Namely, in fact, the main reasons I covered for one of the chapters to fall to madness and chaos during the Abyssal Crusade, because they were captured inside the Eye of Terror by the Dark Eldars that were exploring the old worlds where they lived before She-Thirst was born. So, yeah.
Oh my gosh, actually I just realized I haven't covered the Eye of Terror origins change yet. Damn it, the gaming stuff. When did that happen, guys? Really? I mean, because that's extremely stupid.
It happened very recently. And to answer also to Dabcats about how did Khorne invade Terra, the majority of the power of the Emperor is going to keep in the portal to the webway that is in the throne room of the Imperial Palace closed. Now, the holiness of the Emperor is still something that makes the existence of chaos on Terra very, very hard. But at the same time, the existence of chaos is not something unheard of on Holy Terra, by the simple fact that the Emperor emits influence, but there is an entire planet to cover with it. And even then, what happened with the invasion of Khorne and the Battle of Lion's Gate was that after the Cicatrix Maledictum was opened, the Golden Throne went pretty much into a complete madness. The light of the Emperor in the warp shut down for a few weeks, so pretty much the Emperor couldn't emit the beacon inside the warp to even guide ships around. And the amount of warp energy that was concentrated in the now open Cicatrix Maledictum was so massive that Khorne was actually able to invade Earth, or Terra if you prefer, and open portals on it, just because the Emperor was pretty much knocked out by a backlash of psychic energy created when a new asshole was torn inside the galaxy by the fall of Cadia. So...
Okay, I'm just kind of worried by this point that GW are going to make the lore more accessible to regular people, and by more accessible I mean just less intelligent. And that's something that worries me, because 40k is 40k because it's 40k. If they try to make it like seem more simple, that's not good for no one, even for newcomers, because the newcomers become eventually the regular fans, and they like 40k as it is, as it should be. Like, I became a fan 5 years ago, and I liked it because it's exactly what it is. So, yeah, I hope they don't make it super simple or something like that.
Well, there are people that still believe the Imperium to be the bad guys, so...
Yeah, I know. That's kind of crazy, actually. I mean, when I started with 40K, I first saw Bricky's videos, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, there's no good guys in the Imperium, and everybody are evil and all those things." Technically, that is very huge simplification because there is a lot of nuance in this, and the perspective of the Imperium is not the same as the perspective of all the other alien races and all of those things. So he just made it so like simple that it was basically not true.
Because generally, from how I see it, I think many people are actually scared that if you say the Imperium are the good guys, they will be like accused of being fascist or Nazis or some other bullshit like that coming from people that don't even understand what people are talking about. But generally, every time I heard people going, "Oh yeah, but the Imperium are actually the bad guys." Imagine the meme with, and I took that personally to the point that I made the video explaining that by the point of view, which is the video in fact titled "The Imperium are the good guys of 40K." The fact that, yes, if you look at it from the perspective of an outsider looking into the universe of 40K, you might think that everyone is evil for various shades, but if you actually try to get into the vision of every faction into 40K and into the world of 40K, you find out that humans really didn't have a fucking choice in it. They were the only ones that were trying to take a choice into, do we go completely autistic, violent, and start exterminating entire races of Xenos, or do we go for a more friendly approach? They tried the friendly one, and then they were beaten down by Xenos, and the Age of Strife happened, and then the Eldars invaded, and the Dark Eldars invaded, and then the Orcs invaded, and then everybody fucking invaded and came to try and kill humans. By the point they had arrived where humanity was almost completely annihilated after they had been pretty much friendly with Xenos. And I love when people say, but there is no proof that humans actually were friendly with Xenos. My answer is very simple. The simple fact that the race still exists is the proof humans didn't want them exterminated. Because by the technology they had during the Dark Age of Technology, they could have taken on the fucking Necrons and pretty much won. It is not a matter of if, it is a matter of they would. And the simple fact they still exist, the Orcs still exist, generally every race still existed, was because humans said, okay, we are not killing you. Because if they did, I don't think they would still exist. And after all of that, after having tried to help everyone, after having tried to be friendly with everyone, even with the Eldari Empire, because there is actually a mention that the Eldari Empire actually lived side by side with no conflict with humans before the fall of the AIs. But generally what happened was humans were friendly until everyone else wasn't. After that point, after everyone else wasn't, after millennia endured of slavery, torture, being treated as cattle, exterminated, humans just went, you know what? Maybe I don't like you anymore, and started killing everyone in sight, which is not a matter of, oh yeah, they have become bigoted. It is a matter, it is either us or them.
Yeah, I mean, why anybody just don't think about those things? And the other thing that I always point out is that many of the Astartes, because the Astartes are, of course, the poster boys of 40K, many of them have amazing qualities, amazing virtues, amazing, honor, principles, all those things that will keep them have this, well, their whole being is being basically an honorable warrior. And that is not something that any evil warrior will have. That's quite the opposite. So, I mean, I can't even. I talked about this so many times by this point that I'm tired of that topic. But yeah, that is how I was greeted into the 40K. Everybody were just throwing information at me, and they were like, Gary, you gotta see this. They're all so bad, and they're evil, and you don't know anything. This is the first universe that everybody are evil and no one is good. And I'm like, wait. I have to read this by myself. Which books should I read? And then I started, and because I am very good at analyzing any literature, I cannot say this word, I quickly start to realize what is this really, and it's much deeper and much more layered than everybody were trying presenting it to be. But of course, when millions of people were watching Bricky's videos pointing out how just face value is everything, I'm like, okay, then that is why I should do my own research and not just rely on videos, although you could totally rely on your videos, but that is not what we can say about all people that are content
I do
creators.
find that many of the YouTubers that are around 40K, removing a few, they are, and I will say it with all the tact I'm willing to give to people I have no respect for, they are jokes. That is the point. They are bad jokes, and sometimes not even funny ones at that, because they don't have the balls, let's put it like this, to actually say things how they are. If I find somebody that cries, oh yeah, but the Imperium are the bad guys, you have to keep in mind the humans are the bad guys. And I'm like, have you seen the fucking competition for the title of bad guys? Like, I can understand the Imperium maybe could have acted a bit in other ways in some cases if they didn't get a beat down every time they tried to be tolerating on something. Because, as I explained in my video, every single time they were tolerating on something new, they got beaten bloody so badly that some of the times they actually went almost into extinction. The Imperium is morally grey because it has to be morally grey. It will do good if it can. It will have to do evil if it must. It is a matter of which side is which. The problem with the rest of the factions is something like this is not present. There is no grey morality most of the time. It is every single other one wants us dead. It is not a matter of even allying with each other. There are cases in which alliances were possible. There are even peace treaties between some craft worlds and forge world of the Mechanicus to try and not kill each other. But at the same time, removing the Eldar, that are the only real species that you could try to live side by side with, and even then they are very problematic depending on the faction. What do you have? Dark Eldars will literally kill you and torture you into death for years just for fun and for nourishment. The Tyranids, literal devourer of worlds. Men, women, children, dogs, cats, your own build. They will eat everything and kill you just so they can do so. But then what do you have? The Orcs, oh yes, the meme faction, given how everybody treats them. And then you get in my video where I actually showed how fucking evil they were, and people were like, but they were, but I never actually saw that they ate humans, that they were eating children. No, this is not the Orcs I saw, because you were actually being exposed to memes made by fucking shitty YouTubers. The Orcs are a menace. I have covered in different videos what kind of bullshit they are capable of doing, just because they find it funny to torture humans. It is not even a matter of if. Then what else there is? So we have the Dark Eldars, they will torture you to death. The Orcs, you are cattle or even a plaything to kill just for fun. The Tyranids, Devourer of Worlds. The Tau, they will kill you if they cannot submit you. And if you submit, they will find another way to kill you. Just not tell you about it. The Imperium at least does. Like, what? The Ynnari are literally the only decent faction that has come out generally until now that has had any idea that, yeah, we cannot keep killing humans if we want to win this war against chaos. There is a bigger scheme to fight. And even now, thanks to Games Workshop writers, we have been written into a corner in the Ynnari storyline. Because there was a rite being performed to summon Ynnea, the god that can kill Slaanesh, and it was interrupted by the Death Watch. Because they were not warned about what the Ynnari were doing. But removing that, at least humanity tried to be fucking decent before becoming monsters. The same can't be said for the rest of them.
Amazing. I would say that's just amazing. Yeah, you need a lot more information just to grasp the whole scale of all the conflicts from all sides, just to make the judgment. And usually, you know, the humans from a lot of universes, yeah, they could be total assholes, but of course, in this kind of a way, the story is going to be written from the Imperium on. So that is why when we are talking also about the future projects with Henry Cavill, Amazon, all of that, and what should be brought to screen, I always point out that everything stems from the Imperium. So if you just start telling the story of 40K without actually including the Imperium and just start with random stories, because that is how people want. They just want like a random story about the orcs, then a random story about the Necrons or whatever, and then the general population that are the new viewers, and I mean only us, the old viewers, will know what's going on, and everyone else are gonna be totally lost. So from that point of view, you have to have some kind of a base, and from that base you have to build the universe so people understand what it is. But in the same way, if you're a 40K fan, you have to really think about the whole universe and why are people this way, why are the Eldari this way, and who is good and who isn't, because by this point there's so much like mixing between good and evil, and people don't understand nuance sometimes, and they're just like, well, this is this or that, or everything is evil and nothing is good, and they don't acknowledge actually the true good qualities that, for example, in this case, humans have, and the fact that we are just trying to protect ourselves. Yes, there's some things that are pretty brutal that we also do, as you said, when when push comes to shove, but that is a long topic. The point is, yeah, humans are the good guys. If there's any good guys, we have to be it. I mean, we have to be it. And just to mention the super chat from Gamer Nix, Pio will save the Empire somehow. Well, why not Pontius save the Empire?
No, because Pio is renowned to be invading countries, and next target is Brazil. So, I think the main problem when it comes to people trying to approach 40K or even the actions of the Emperor of Mankind is that the people that are actually trying to understand them or even discuss them, the problem is that the people that are trying to do this are trying to give morality the same weight we give to it in the real world. Like, in the sense, there is good and there is bad. There is no in between, which is the stupidest generally choice that you can ever make for certain things. But generally, when taking like the actions of the Imperium and how he ingrained certain things, the Emperor himself ingrained certain things in the Imperium of Men, it all comes not from satire, like some people seem to think, because as I explained in my video, satire dies when the actions people are taking are not driven by superstition or madness, but are actually driven by experience and not wanting to be taken out of surprise anymore. Like, oh yeah, the fact that the Emperor ingrained a fear of technology and AI into humanity. Yes, because he was alive during the cybernetic revolt. He probably fought in it against the machines. The Emperor ingrained a xenophobia into the Imperium of Men and humanity. Yes, because he was alive during the Age of Strife. He saw the Dark Eldars, the Orcs. Everyone threatened the existence of humanity just because we were not able to defend ourselves. And at that point, if you witness that the only reason they want you dead is because at that point you cannot resist them, what other reason you need to say, okay, then, if you exist, it is a problem. You are not existing any longer. Like, generally, it comes from a place of somebody that had lived so long in general in the Imperium of Men that he saw that there was no way of negotiating with something that was completely unreasonable. And sometimes reasonable men must make reasonable decisions. And at that point, for the Emperor, it was I either make humanity completely hateful of the aliens so that there is no minimal chance that something like the Age of Strife happens again, or I tell humanity that they should think with their own head, then maybe sometimes we find a good race that maybe we can annex. Like, removing that was actually his message, because like in the first book of Horus Rising, there is a mention that on Terra there is embassies for alien ambassadors. So I think that was actually what the Emperor wanted. If you will not resist, but at the same time you cannot be one of us, we can at least negotiate. Like, you don't have to die unless you give us a reason to kill you. But after that, it became all Xenos must die no matter whatever, because To put it simply, you cannot trust anything but your own kind in the universe of 40k, because everybody is evil, as it is said. So, if everybody is evil, do you think that good moral men will survive in 40k? It is the same as the Warp. The Warp is technically also a place where there is good emotions. Have you ever seen anything in it that is good? Removing the prisoners like Isha? Like, generally, evil is always triumphed in 40k. So, reasonable men must make reasonable decisions. And at that point, you are either, oh yeah, I'm so morally good, I do not hate the Elder, I do not hate AI, I do not hate technology. Yeah, you are dead between a couple of years, probably.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the grim darkness of the 40k, so you can't really think like in the real world. We just have to think in the world of 40k to make sense of it. And that's really it. So...
Yeah, generally I think that Games Workshop, if they wanted to make humanity also bad guys in 40k, shouldn't have spent 30 fucking years making them the victims of the galaxy. Because, as I said at the end of my video, I have showed in every single way possible that humanity wasn't evil. It was pushed into becoming like this. And even then, there is still good people between them. But unfortunately, a reasonable man will not survive in 40k. Because to put it simply, you cannot. Everything out there is out there to kill you, so you have to kill it first. It is either eat or be eaten. And there are still people that have the goal to actually express that, oh yeah, but survival is still not justification for the amount of brutality the Imperium commits. And I'm like, what a privileged and like certainly arrogant position to have. I would want to see these people like put in an arena with a rabid wolf. I want to see if they are going to kill it and try to survive, or just, oh no, I'm actually a person for all life. Eat me! I want to see them go eat me at that point just to stand by their own fucking conclusions, because I do not believe even one of them actually believes in that.
Yeah, I mean, exactly in that situation, you just have to defend yourself. It's common sense, for goodness sakes. So yeah,
it is the thing that people lack in this age. Common sense. It is a superpower by this point.
I know. And it is because the woke mind virus corrupted people. So they are like, what is common sense? Where is that? I mean, everybody else are wrong. And the woke people have the ego of the size of the Emperor's ego, probably. But actually with no coverage at all. So, you know, self-esteem and ego, but no base to stand on. Anyway, that's another topic. So, to conclude somehow, because we can totally talk for 500 hours, but I think we should stick to an hour and a half. So, can we draw some conclusions about the Emperor and his choices, so to speak, whether whether those be completely directional and aware, or him just being like, well, I'm trying to get to a particular future, so I'm going to do my best, but if something along the way gets screwed up, well, I did what I could.
I think the Emperor, many people forget, even because technically he isn't, but technically still is human. Like every single human is flawed, will not make the best decisions, will not make the most rational judgments. At the same time, was mostly written by fucking idiots most of the time, so there is also that to take into account. But generally, I find the Imperium believable as a man and a force for good that had a plan in mind that the universe itself had to unite to stop, because it is actually something very rare that the Chaos Gods actually work together to try and stop something. I think the Emperor was an exceptional individual with exceptional powers and exceptional mind to being put pretty much against the forces of nature that are born from the simple fact sentient life exists. He did the best he could, he used his powers for the best he could. He could have been written better in many cases, but I think by the end he was not blind or misguided. I think he really wanted good for humanity and was moving to achieve it in the way he saw. And being that Psykers can do much more than humans and see much more than humans, we will never know what he was seeing. But I think the future we are in 40k was the best option he could offer, generally. for what had to happen, if we follow what was said in the last church at least, that generally he wanted to arrive at this point because it is probably the only future where humanity survived and where there was a chance to triumph. Even if that costed him his own freedom, his own mind, his own soul, and endless eons of suffering. So I do not think the Emperor actually got anything wrong in what he wanted. He tried to have a better future written for humanity, but in the end had to take what he was given, and if that meant sacrificing himself for the race he loved, as he said himself, a last gift for the species I failed, he actually did. So
Yeah, he did. So the most important thing for the Emperor is humanity. So there you go. If that's not a force for creation and not so much of destruction, I don't know what is. So that is it, guys. But of course, there's always more to say. Let me just check the comments real quick. There are a lot of the comments. Jesus. Okay, so Quinn is actually an OG 40K fan who has been there since 40K has been created. So he has been there before most of us are born, probably. Quinn, don't throw tomatoes at me, okay? Later. So, to me, Dan Abnett is the ultimate authority to trust when it comes to writing 40K lore, along with the game dev writers, to a point. Okay, and something about evil flourishes when good men stand by and do nothing. So that is also true. We gotta fight. I mean, that is why I said also about the woke stuff, that if I don't speak about it and I don't point those things out, especially when they came to 40K, to my turf, then we just may as well be vegetables, you know, and don't defend what we love. So I refuse to be a vegetable. Oh boy, that's a lot. And Mr. YouTube decided to throw up in the chat. He said that making them non-binary was no go
yeah,
to
because
me.
they try to make the orcs non-binary, and I'm like, they're literally orcs. Their gender is orc. Anzi, no, their gender is actually fungi. So
Yeah, I mean, that was ridiculous. I covered that as well, how there was this very small conversation just slipped in there for absolutely no reason at all, out of nowhere. Oh, they were what? Obviously, they're supposed to be men. I mean, you know what I mean? They seem
yeah,
male,
they're
they act
supposed to be
male,
male.
they call themselves boys and all those things. So that's it. That should be at the end of the conversations, but no, there has to be some kind of a sneaked in there, something so stupid. And you should hear the narrator of the book was a woman, and she was so stoic while reading these things. I'm like, what the hell? She's like, oh, and I'm like, this is horrible. And then there is the other thing with the not the sorry, with the Necron, where one Necron was becoming a woman. I mean, not becoming a woman. He was a woman all of a sudden. So he was supposed to be he and a patriarch, but all of a sudden it was a matriarch, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Necrons don't even have freaking souls, they're machines. I mean, they identify as female and male, but identifying as the other gender, for what reason exactly could there be? They don't have actual parts to change.
Because they are written by... how to explain? They're written by arrogant assholes that think that in a universe where war is the main thing everybody focuses on, anybody that isn't trying to survive has the time to think about, oh yeah, I am a soulless robot fighting against literally everything in the galaxy and the literal forces of nature. But let me tell you how today I am becoming a woman. Like, even in generally in the precedence of priorities, it sounds so fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, I have nothing better to do, so I'm gonna become the other. It just doesn't make any sense. Like any freaking sense. I mean, for most normal people that are perfectly fine with their mental health, you will never actually like ever think about such a thing because you're okay with your mental health, and they're very arrogant robots in space, and the last thing that they need is to identify as any other gender. That is just so far away from their nature. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it is also a very extremely human idea, and I wonder why the fuck a race of that was before the Necrontyr and then became the Necrons would even try to think something like that, because like it is something only humans do in present time. I do not see anything else, any animals and such do that, so I do not see why aliens will do that. But yeah, this is the arrogance of recent writers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, my puppies all of a sudden will decide that they are women now. Right.
Yeah.
Sure. The other thing was that in one of the books that was Warhammer Fantasy, it wasn't 40K, but still, there was a story that became very popular last year because it seemingly insinuated some kind of a underage gay relationship, and everybody.
Yeah, and the book was written by Graham McNeil, the same guy that wrote the Daemonculaba, so what were you expecting?
Yeah, the same guy. And I read that whole passage. The bad thing was that we all ran with the first passage that showed up, and then I went out of my way to find the whole book and find actually the rest of this page so I can see the whole context. And of course, I made a video saying that, hey, this is not actually what it looked like. It is totally gay, but it's not the underage thing that everybody thought that it is. So at least it wasn't that.
I've gone and read it. It is not something that technically happened inside the book, but it was the future of a guy that died in the book. But still, the phrasing was so off that I cannot shake the idea off from my mind. And even then, the book pretty much killed the series they were trying to make for the old world, because it was shit. But yeah.
Yeah, it was written very, and it just very non-engaging way.
It was full of retcons also. So
Yeah, it was a mess. I mean, we can just say that it was a mess.
yeah,
And-
it killed the old world before it even started. So
Yeah, well, when I was growing up and I played with knights and action figures because that's what I play with. I didn't play with girl toys. Everything that I play with was, men toys and action figures and cars and stuff like that. I always wanted to see how a knight died and then he thought how he's gonna like go off in the sunset with the guy. Yeah, sure, that's exactly what I thought. Oh Jesus. And they probably would think that I'm some kind of a transgender because I played with male toys, but I was a girl this whole time.
yeah, and they try to apply real world political concept into imaginary situations where really they have no application. So it is always with that.
But yeah, but I mean, imagine if there's it's rare for a girl to like men stuff and play with male toys and all those things. So imagine if I was a little kid now and I'm in America, let's say, and my parents are like, "Oh my gosh, she's probably thinks she's a boy, so let's make her a boy." Like imagine the horror story from that. It's just horrible.
Yeah, there is so many stories coming out, unfortunately, about it, and I think it will be remembered as a very dark decade in the storybooks.
Yeah, and absolutely. Yeah, that's called tomboy. I know. I was kind of like that.
Yeah, man, I will want a muscular tomboy wife in the future, but who knows?
Wait, you would want or you wouldn't want? I didn't hear that.
No, I want a muscular tomboy wife in the future. But yeah, I'm pretty much big into tomboys, so I hate this entire movement to delete them. There is also actually one in the books I'm reading right now. She's called Anna. Another case of a very good female character written without the need of her being either a space marine or a custodian. Look at that.
Oh, great. So I gotta get familiar with her then. Maybe she's interesting. If you find her interesting.
Yeah, she's pretty much described as being a Khalidus assassin, but the way she's written, she's actually not only very good at her job, but has actually a very good grasp on morality, on how things work. She appears very, very sparingly in the books, but every time she appears, you know that one, very many people are going to die, and two, she's going to fight at least for the good of the Imperium. So.
Interesting. Oh, by the way, there's a funny comment. So, SGT David says, I can only trust one madam with using real life politics in fiction, and it's Hideo Kojima. What? What do you mean, madam? Hideo Kojima. And Grace
Because
Randolph called him Kohima, by the way, if somebody watches movie-related stuff and Grace Randolph for years.
Because Hideo Kojima uses a lot of political commentary in his video games and such, messages of anti-war, control of the masses and such, but he uses them in such a delicate way that it is still interesting. It doesn't become preaching, it becomes a plot point inside the story you are living, which is the difference. I don't want to be preached at, I want to be entertained. If there is interesting messaging, that is just an addition.
Yeah, of course. Oh, by the way, do you think that I'm still considered a tomboy if I'm a geek and I love male things, but everything else is not mainly about me?
No, it's mainly being a based woman, but tomboy is a style of life in my case, and it might be my fetish for short hair speaking, but I think tomboyish is also a way of living your life, like wearing more normal clothes, more men in this case clothes, being less feminine and such, but not because you find it offensive or such, but just because you don't feel it like it is yourself, being more boyish as a woman than a normal woman. So
Okay, so I'm past this phase then. I'm just a geek. Okay, and a based one. Okay. Yeah, because I used to wear like baggy clothes when I was like 14, but then I created a better physique, so that was the end of the baggy clothes. Okay, guys. What is the 40K Empress Flork? What's Flork?
the Flork was the old avatar I used, which is the one you are using on screen right now. They were called Flork because technically they are made in the style of an artist called Flork of Chaos. But at one point, Flork advised us to make our own designs because if we wanted to monetize the videos, open a Patreon and such, or sell merch, he didn't want us bogged down with his own contracts for use of license and such, and pretty much suggested us make your own designs so you don't have all of these problems. And after the Battle of War ended, we changed the designs to the ones we use now. So.
Ah, okay. Well, I can make my own. Yeah, I'm an artist. If I want, I can just draw something like that. It's no problem, really.
Just look up Flork of Chaos and you can get inspiration. All the old avatars were made by Florks, so.
Okay, cool, interesting stuff. I learn new stuff every day, guys. Okay, what are both of your favorite faction armies? Well, mine are Custodes, that's why I'm painting Custodes, and I got the Emperor of Mankind, if you saw that shirt on the channel. I mean, a miniature of the Emperor of Mankind from Timo. I got that as a gift for Valentine's Day, so I'm very happy about that. The best gift that you can give an Empress, just something about 40k, and I'm happy. So yeah, what's your favorite?
In my case, for the forces. If you take the humans, my favorite are Armageddon Steel Legion. If you take the Space Marines, it will be the Blood Angels Legion. If you take the super Space Marines, it will be the Custodians. But it really depends from the faction and the situation. I find them all interesting, but it depends from how they are used. So.
Okay, well, sorry, Mr. YouTube. Ew, Timo, yeah, but there are some useful things there, and if people want to get me the Emperor of Mankind, I wouldn't say no, okay? I have been searching for it all my life. like there's one line in Johnny Bravo. And yeah, I mean, I have been searching for it. I just want to have a big statue, but I couldn't find that. I couldn't find the STL file of it, so that's the closest that I'm gonna get for now to the Emperor, having him physically in some kind of a form. So I'm gonna take it. It's perfectly fine. It's printed.
Yes, but
amazing.
Pio, we actually fixed that with the new avatar, where the Pio name is more stylized. Don't pretend more; you will not have more.
Okay. Okay, guys. So I think we had a great conversation. I tagged you in a title, so everybody can just click on the title and just go to your channel as well. But we can have other conversations in the future, guys. God willing, there's many things in 40k that are awesome to discuss. And
I just want to be done with the research I'm doing right now, because I have started reading from Sunday the trilogy of the Macarian Crusade. I finished today the second book. They were both over 300 pages books. And I will start the third one this evening because I need to finish this one, a short story, and then start research on like 9 separate fucking codexes and white dwarves just to put together the video. My brain is frying, but at least the lore is interesting, and especially it is not the fucking Badab War again.
Yeah, I mean, I know how you feel, so. But
I
you
covered
are...
nothing but the Badab War for 3 months in 2024. I wanted to hang myself by the end of it. I was tired.
Yeah, absolutely. But at least you're taking one for everyone, for all the teams, so to speak. So that's a great work that you're doing, guys. And I'm also researching some other things about that. I can't even say what it is, but like I said at the beginning, it's something that I haven't seen anyone cover. So it's going to be an interesting diving into a hypothetical thing. So yeah, hopefully it's interesting for everyone. So with that being said, guys, thank you so much to the Pontius for joining me for this amazing conversation. I hope that you had a great time, guys. And I'm gonna be returning again this week because last time it was just gaming a week, but this week is gonna be more 40k week. So thank you, Pontius.
Have a good night.
Absolutely, have a good night, guys. With me, the 40k Empress and Pontius. Bye bye.
Bye.